Some stories are better left untold, but you're already here. Welcome to the dark side. I was 15 when I got my first girlfriend. We lived in a quiet, upper-class neighborhood with peaceful streets. Her name was Casey, and she lived just 2 blocks away, so I'd often walk to her place in the evenings. One Thursday night during school break, I had nothing going on, so I decided to head over to her house. It was fairly late, but I didn't have a strict curfew, so I wasn't too worried. As I walked, I started to notice strange sounds coming from behind me. The first was a rustling in a bush. I glanced back briefly, didn't stop walking, just picked up the pace a little. A block later, I heard something else. A small crack like a twig snapping. This time I stopped and looked around. The street was empty. Bushes lined the sidewalk, separating it from the yards. I didn't see anything unusual, but my nerves were on edge. I walked faster now, nearly reaching Casey's street, when I heard another sound. This time, quick, soft footsteps. I turned my head again, still walking. No one there. I could see her house now. I called her, and she answered right away. I told her I was getting spooked by weird noises. As I walked around the bushes near her driveway and onto the property, I saw her watching me from her upstairs bedroom window. She was still on the phone and waved at me. I waved back. Then she asked, "Who's that guy behind you?" I whipped around and saw a grown man crouched low, just about 10 feet behind me. I screamed and sprinted to the front door, pounding on it in a panic. The man grabbed me, trying to get me in a headlock, but he quickly let go and ran off. Casey's mom opened the door, clearly alarmed. She pulled me inside and slammed the door behind me as Casey ran over. My heart was racing like crazy. Her mom hugged me, asked what happened, and called the police to report a suspicious man roaming the neighborhood. She let me stay the night for safety and drove me home the next day. It was a dangerously stormy night. Everyone in my family was busy doing their own thing. I was in my room watching TV, my parents were in the living room enjoying a comedy show, and my sister was upstairs playing video games. I usually found comfort in nights like this. The storm always helped me unwind. I was feeling calm until a thunderous bang shook my window. Startled, I jumped up and looked outside. There was someone standing just beyond the glass. The heavy rain made it hard to see his face clearly. It was smeared into a blur by the droplets. Then he started pounding on the window. I could barely hear him, but it looked like he was yelling for help. I cracked the window open and he shouted, "Let me in, I'm hurt." The rain was deafening. I had to yell back, telling him to go to the front door instead. I quickly slammed the window shut and ran to the living room to tell my dad that someone outside was begging for help. Just then, loud bangs echoed from our front door, along with the same desperate cries. My dad walked over to open the door, but I stopped him and said, "Wait," unsure if it was safe. That's when the phone rang, and our neighbor's caller ID flashed on the TV screen. My dad grabbed the phone, and I heard him say, "No fucking way." I instantly knew something was wrong. After hanging up, he told us to stay away from the door. He didn't give details. Instead, he peeked out the window toward the front step. That's when he saw the man crouched down, pounding on the door, holding what looked like a huge, sharp object. My dad yelled at him to leave, or the police would be called. Then he actually called them. Eventually, the man left. When we checked again, he was gone. Later, my dad told us that our neighbor had seen the same man earlier, digging around in his shed and walking off with a large chopping axe. The police caught the guy wandering through the neighborhood. A few days later, the story made it into the local newspaper. One night, when I was still a small kid, I was sitting in the living room watching my favorite cartoon. The TV volume was pretty high, but I thought I heard my mom calling my name from downstairs. I yelled back, but she didn't respond. Maybe she couldn't hear me. Then I heard her voice again, so I got up and headed toward the basement. The lights were off, so I paused halfway down and called out to her. Still no answer. I had no idea where her voice was coming from, but one thing I knew for sure. She wasn't in the basement. Turned around and started climbing back upstairs. But just before I reached the top, I heard her voice again, calling my name from the basement. I froze and looked down into the darkness. My heart was racing. I ran all the way back up, switched on the lights, and slowly walked back down the stairs a bit, peeking into the basement. She wasn't there. Out of nowhere, a wave of terror hit me. I bolted up the stairs, crying and screaming for my mom. She rushed down from upstairs, and through tears I told her something downstairs was calling me. It sounded exactly like her. She promised me she hadn't called me at all. To make me feel safe, she went down to the basement to check. But I didn't feel safe. I don't think she believed me. After all, I was just a little kid. But even now, I know what I heard. My grandfather recently shared a story with me. It was about a night when he went out walking his dog. He used to own a small Boston Terrier named Sherry, a name he gave her in memory of an old friend who had passed away. He lives around 2 hours away from us, on a quiet farm where not much usually happens. He shares the place with his wife, Mary Ann, whom he married about 15 years ago. Every morning, Mary Ann would take Sherry for a walk, and every evening, my grandfather would take her on the same route. One evening, as the sun was going down, he was walking Sherry along the usual dirt path that bordered the woods beside their land. While on the trail, they passed someone who had a large hood pulled up. As expected, Sherry barked and tugged toward the person, typical dog behavior around strangers. My grandfather greeted the hooded figure, but the person didn't respond, just walked past without acknowledging him. They kept moving, but Sherry kept glancing back and barking. My grandfather tried to quiet her down and gently pulled on her leash to keep moving forward. Eventually, he turned to see what was bothering her. The same hooded person they'd passed earlier was now hiding behind a tree some distance away, clearly watching them. Sensing danger, my grandfather picked up his pace. At his age, he always keeps pepper spray in his coat pocket, just in case. He was nearing the house when he suddenly heard the crunch of leaves directly behind him. Before he could react, a gloved hand covered his mouth and nose, stopping him from calling out or breathing. He remembers hearing Sherry barking and biting at the stranger, possibly giving him just enough of a chance to weaken the attacker's grip. Struggling to reach into his coat pocket, my grandfather finally grabbed the pepper spray and unleashed it, not once, but repeatedly, even after the man started screaming and let go. He then made the fastest dash he could manage back to the house. Thankfully, he made it home unharmed. I spent the first 14 years of my life growing up in California. The neighborhood we lived in wasn't exactly safe. It was known as an area where the Crips, one of the largest street gangs in Los Angeles, often operated. My best friend, Stevie D, lived just 2 houses down. We had other friends, sure, but most of the time, it was just me and him. We'd ride our bikes around town or stay in and play video games. Typical kid stuff. When we were 12, we decided to bike around the neighborhood one evening and ended up near an old abandoned house that everyone knew about. It had been empty for years. No one wanted to buy it, though no one really knew why. As we pulled up in front, Stevie pointed at one of the windows and said, "Look." I rolled closer and squinted at the glass. That's when I saw it, a face peeking out between the curtains. I couldn't tell if it was staring at us or just staring blankly ahead. Either way, it was creepy. Face didn't move, not even slightly. We both stared longer than we should have. Then we noticed something even weirder. The head looked fake, like a Halloween prop. That could only mean one thing. Someone had snuck into the house and put it there. Being the curious and slightly reckless kids we were, Stevie and I decided to sneak in through the back and check it out. We hid our bikes behind a bush on the side of the house, crept into the yard, and found the back door unlocked. Thinking about it now, that made sense. Someone had clearly broken in. Inside, we didn't dare turn on any lights. The house was dark, but not completely. We could still make our way through. We headed straight for the living room, aiming to inspect the figure in the window. The stench in the room hit us immediately. Stevie reached the window first and picked up the head from the sill, but then he dropped it and screamed. I'll never forget the way it felt. It wasn't just heavy. It felt real. The texture of the skin, the cold weight in his hands. As it hit the floor, dark liquid oozed from it. Blood. It was a real human head. We froze. Above us, we heard two quick creaks from the ceiling. We looked at each other, mouths wide open. Then we bolted. We flew out the back door, jumped on our bikes, and rode as fast as we could. It didn't take long for people around the neighborhood to find out what had happened. The head belonged to someone the Crips had killed. They'd left it there as some kind of warning. No one ever figured out the full story. But the scariest part? Whoever put the head there might have still been in the house. Those creaks we heard? They sounded like someone coming down the stairs. Last year, around 9 p.m., a man showed up at our front door. I went to get my mom, and she stepped outside to see who it was. For context, we live in a rural area, so late-night visitors are extremely rare and suspicious. The man started talking to my mom about a business he was starting. He asked if she preferred American-made goods, then handed her a Clorox container as a sample. He walked back to his minivan, supposedly to grab a vacuum cleaner. That's when my mom noticed 5 other men sitting inside the vehicle. She told me to run and grab the phone. We don't have a landline. I couldn't find it, so instead, I grabbed a knife and waited around the corner. My mom threw the container out and yelled at them to get the hell off her property, saying she was calling the police. They sped off down the driveway, and we never saw that car again. I've only ever used Craigslist once in my life, and that single experience left a really bad impression on me. Here's what happened. A guy posted an ad selling a ping pong table, and I thought it'd be a fun addition for my roommate and me. We arranged a time for me to come by that same evening. I had to take the back seats out of my truck just to make room for it. When I arrived at his place, I texted him to let him know I was outside. The front door opened, so I stepped out of my truck and walked quickly to the entrance. I tried to shake his hand, but I don't think he noticed. After an awkward pause, I lowered my arm. In a raspy smoker's voice, he told me to follow him down to the basement. The house had a strange smell. Not exactly unpleasant, just smoky and stale. In the basement, there it was, the ping pong table, right in the center of the room. Suddenly, he said, "Oh, crap, forgot the paddles," and rushed back upstairs, telling me to wait. I figured he was just having trouble finding them, so I hung around. After a while, I started glancing around. Framed photos on the furniture. But they were all of him. No family, no friends. Maybe one with a dog. 10 minutes passed and I got curious. I looked into a storage laundry room in the back. There was a utility desk and one of the drawers was half open. I pulled it the rest of the way. Inside were old Polaroids, disturbing ones. They showed a girl tied to a chair with tape over her mouth. Next to the photos were yellow folders arranged A to Z. I didn't dare open them. I pulled out my phone to take pictures, planning to send them to my friends. But I had no signal in the basement. That's when I knew I had to leave. I bolted to the door at the top of the stairs, but it was locked. Before panic set in, I heard that raspy voice again through the door. He said the door must have locked by mistake and that he'd go find the key. I didn't respond. I examined the keyhole, ran back down to the utility desk, grabbed 3 screwdrivers and tested them one by one. The smallest one fit. I turned it, and the lock clicked open. I didn't look back. I just ran. Straight to my truck. Straight to the nearest police station. I showed them the pictures, gave them the address, and told them what I saw. That was enough to open a case. A few days later, I found out that the man was involved in a child pornography ring on the deep web. Why he locked me in the basement, I still don't know. I have no idea what he was planning to do to me. But I know it wasn't anything good.